Okay, we are recording. Ryan, how are you today?
I'm good, Stu. I'm good. How are you, buddy?
I'm all right. I'm all right. I'm just looking at that chair you're sitting in. It looks quite regal.
This chair, this chair has been around a long time, and it's stood the test of time.
Nice,
And
nice.
it could be, I don't know, it could be 20-year-old. I think I remember this chair when I was, beginning to walk. And
Oh,
it
wow.
various different places in the house. I think it was upstairs, and then it was kind of demoted to the back of the house, and then it
Sure.
kind of made a return to the Champions League, and was kind of put in sort of a sitting room or a living room, and
Nice.
now it's kind of migrated to the computer room overlooking the mountain. So it's a great chair. I wouldn't say it's that comfortable, but
Looks good.
nonetheless,
Looks good.
you can
Well,
sit on.
we'll talk about the family home and growing up as this podcast unfolds a little bit. But first of all, I'm going to ask you, please, to tell me the song that you regard as having the greatest ever intro, please, Ryan.
For me, it is very possibly Bittersweet Symphony by The Verve.
That's a banger, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think what's really good with that, if you hear the sort of, like, obviously you normally get a radio edit when you hear it on the radio, but
yeah,
if you put the album on or the full version, it takes it's not got a fade out, it's got a fade in at the beginning, which is great. It's so slight, that just elongated string, and then it's even quite quiet at first, the first time you hear the ba, 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 but then, oh man, when them drums drop,
incredible.
It's like, I was speaking to Miles Kane about that kind of Richard Ashcroft effect of when you're walking down the street with headphones on, and something comes on with a little bit of swagger.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're like it, but do you instantly presume you're in a music video and your chest is out and you've got a little bit more bounce in your step?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, I can't even remember when I first heard it, Stu, but it's kind of lived with me, and it's kind of been there, you know what I mean? Like it's just kind of been there in the background. And I have a really good friend who's a filmmaker, lives down in Dublin, Stu. Sometimes I'm allowed to sit in the chair, and sometimes I'm kind of demoted to the stool. But if he leaves the room, I kind of hop into his chair and I hop onto his computer, and I'll stick on a kind of, the same tunes that I'd maybe put on the last time I'd been in his flat, maybe a few months before that. And I think at one stage, he kind of just cried out, "Not the Verve again." It's like, not again. And I think he said that about Oasis, and he said that about Liam Gallagher. And then I think the more I played, the more he kind of went, "That's actually not a bad tune."
Yeah.
And then he'd start playing it, but Bittersweet Symphony is something. Like, I mean, I was up the mountain for a hike. Well, I was up on Monday, but I think it was the week previous. And, I just had my headphones on going up, and there's just something about it. Like you said, whether you're transported into some sort of music video or like a film, there's just something about it. And I see that he did a collaboration with Liam Gallagher recently. Is it called "Come On People" or something? But I like their vibe, and I like the music, and it's kind of quite rock and roll and stuff. And so something about that intro I really like. Columbia maybe is another one. Oasis, Columbia is another one, and then there's a kind of great opening as well, I think, to Cigarettes and Alcohol as well, which I think is quite iconic.
Yeah, it's got that really kind of cool sort of glam rock sort of chunky guitar, hasn't it? It sort of clunks along that. It's really good. Really good.
Yeah.
Okay, well, look, before we let's start to look back, and for track 2, I'm going to ask you, please, to tell me the first song you remember hearing that had an emotional impact on you, please.
It's very possibly Lippy Kids by Elbow. Yeah.
I mean, if you had to, if that song comes on,
yeah,
and if you used to shut your eyes, where would that take you?
Well, kind of my connection to songs, Stu, growing up, and my connection probably to music, which is a very important in my life, and has been, is kind of the moment that you kind of shared listening to it, or where you were in your life at that particular time, or what you were doing, or what your kind of energy was, or and when I heard that song, I probably heard that song quite late in life. I had done my first ever kind of role in television for the BBC, and it was a student drama set in Belfast, and they aired the first 2 episodes, and I was only, I think it was maybe like 20 or something like this, 20 or 21. And I was really excited, and there was a few friends of my family that were over, and one of my mates was over, and I remember we just watched the first 2 episodes, and about 30-minute eps, and there was a really beautiful moment at the end of episode 2, and Lippy Kid started to play, and I think that's kind of ingrained in my mind and sort of steeped in kind of beauty, and probably will be for a very long time. So when I hear it, I kind of think about that, and I guess you maybe get a sense of the feeling, or the thing, that kind of feeling that you felt, that sort of fringing on maybe Euphoria, and at the same time it's quite sort of, there's kind of melancholy kind of attached to it.
It's so strange. I've asked this question maybe 400 times on this podcast now, about that kind of emotion that you get from that, and it's so weird that music seems to create, so many people have said something quite similar in regards to that kind of, obviously you said Euphoria and melancholy, and there is just something, certainly I guess bands like Elbow are spectacular at being able to create stuff like that, but it is, isn't it, it's like something that music is a ridiculous thing insofar as it can bring that euphoria, and that whilst you're experiencing that, your heart's breaking at the same time. It's like it's a glorious thing.
No, and I mean, like there's so many songs, like I said, yes, okay, the lyrics are part of the appeal and part of the lure, but music for me, like when I think back to even my teens, and going into high school, and when I really started to get into music, and sort of artists maybe and bands that you liked and you kind of gravitated towards, I think it was more so for me personally, where you were at in life at that particular moment in time, and kind of what was maybe going on, and maybe why you listened to it, and what kind of emotions it brought about, and you know what I mean. And I think that's always been my connection. I mean, I listened to a song recently, a couple of days ago, it might have even been yesterday, and I remembered listening to that song. I was living in a flat with a couple of other actors in Dublin. I was doing a play, a play at the National Theatre of Ireland, the Abbey Theatre, and I just remember listening to that song. It was it was big at the time back in 2013, and you're just transported back, and I thought, wow, that's kind of the beauty of music, the beauty that these artists create, the kind of world and the feelings and what it can kind of bring out in you, I guess. And I hadn't heard that song in a long time. I hadn't heard that song in years, and suddenly I was just transported back to that flat in North Dublin, which is a cool flat. But yeah,
and it's crazy that I imagine you probably still remembered every single lyric of that as well.
I did. I sang it. That's
so weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like...
Now, whether I sang it well or not, that's up for debate. That's up for debate. You know what I mean? But I definitely had a go at it. You know what I mean?
So where was growing up?
Where was growing up? I grew up just on the border of Ireland, in a small village. And it's incredibly picturesque, and it's in a you're surrounded by mountains, and there's you have a lot of space, I guess, and you know what I mean, kind of you just I think as kids and my siblings and stuff, you don't spend a lot of time indoors. You spend a lot of time outdoors, and you spend a lot of time playing football in the garden, and your mates, because it's kind of because the houses are, there's they're not quite close to one another. You never really got to play with your mates. And I think that was something as well that some of my friends at school, you know, I kind of thought, gosh, I would like to do that, because you end up coming home from school and probably playing on your own, or doing your own thing and stuff. And you know, that's kind of interesting too, you know. But it's very beautiful, very, very beautiful, you know.
Well, let's talk about school. Track 3, song that reminds you of your time at school, please, Ryan.
Yeah. Razor Light, their America.
That's a tune.
Yeah, I was wondering what your reaction would be.
No, it's really weird. Like Johnny Burrell, like, become a superstar, didn't he? And then the press just turned on him. I think he to get a little bit too big for his Nike boots, and it felt that everybody just then hated on Razorlight. And and I DJ still in a club that I've worked at for years and years and years, and it's an indie club, and I dug out America a couple of years ago, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to stick it on
fair play,
and see if they go for it. Mate, they loved it.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's really cool.
It's a big old chorus, isn't it?
It's great, dude. I mean, you know, I remember my one of my older brothers, he had like it was kind of like a mini disc player or something. I can't quite remember what it was, like a mini disc player. And he had a really old car, and it just about got us to the city and back to play football on a Sunday morning. And you know, I remember kind of trying to, you know, get the leads, and you know what I mean. It was all kind of new at that stage, trying to play music in your car, and especially a pretty old car, a great car. And all we played was America.
Yeah.
And that was it. And we played it, you know, it's you know, it's probably about a 20-25 minute drive to those pitches that we played at, to the city. And you know, we played it all the way on the way back. And I don't know if that was because it was the only song he had, or it was his favorite song, or I don't know, man. But it was yeah. And we just kind of sat and listened to it, and it was really, really cool. And then I get into their other, you know, some of their other songs and stuff. Yeah. I can't remember the names of them off the top of my head, but I think they have one, is it Camden Town? Like I refound them again a couple of years ago, like 3-4 years ago. I was like, oh, you know, Razorlight, what are they doing? I haven't heard them in a long time. And I went back and listened to stuff that I hadn't listened to before. I mean, that's the beauty of, you know, the kind of apps that you have now. But, you know, back then it was just, you know, it was a few tunes, and, you know, Razorlight was kind of one of them and stuff, you know.
On loop for 25 minutes there and back.
On loop for 25 minutes back, you know. It's like, you know, there's certain songs, Stu, I think, you know, you kind of know the lyrics to, and you can't get them wrong because they're kind of, you know, they're etched in the kind of, you know, the fiber of your mind. But yeah, it reminds me of school. The Killers was quite big as well, I think, when I was at school. I remember kind of vaguely there was a guy had a phone, and it played, you know, he was able to play a song on it, and there was kind of like, you know, everybody in the classroom was kind of, you know, staring at it, kind of like, what is this, you know what I mean? And I think it was the Killers or something like that. It could have been Mr. Brightside or something like this. So yeah.
How was school?
School was cool. Yeah, school was cool. It was really, really cool. Some really wonderful teachers, and, you know, a teacher, and I had an English teacher, an incredible woman, who had, I guess, kind of helped instill a passion in the arts and for acting. And you know, I'd really connected with her, and I think, I can't remember if she had retired when I was leaving, but eventually I would drop out of school, and, you know, at 17, 18, and pursue a career in the arts, and, you know, as an actor and stuff. But school was really cool. I mean, you know, we just, when I was there, Stu, at that particular moment in time, we couldn't do drama. It wasn't kind of on the curriculum for GCSE. So, you know, the only bit of, you know, acting that I was able to do was, you know, they did a musical every couple of years, which was a lot of fun, which was really cool. And, you know, she would, you know, do maybe some Shakespeare and stuff like that. And that was kind of, you know, both an introduction as well as, you know, kind of, you know, just instilling, like I said, you know, a bit of a passion and stuff. But it was really cool. And I connected with her recently as well, which was really nice. But school was cool, man. School was cool, you know.
And even back then, did you want to be an actor? And also, you know, describing where you grew up, which
Yeah.
you know sounds relatively remote.
It
like,
is. Yeah.
You know, did it feel like that was something that people from where you were from could become actors?
No, it didn't feel a possibility. It didn't feel like it would happen. You know what I mean? It was so out of the kind of framework of my world. It was just so unbelievable. My mom, you know, my mom kind of sent me to a youth group in the city. I think they get me out of the house because, you know, I was playing loads of video games and, you know, closing the curtains on really sunny days, and you know, I kind of had retreated into myself a little bit, and you know, so that was around, I think 11, 12. I think maybe I'd done little bits and bobs with the youth group, you know, from 8, 9, and I guess it was a bit of a progression. You know, that particular youth group, they do it every year, and as far as I'm aware, they still do it for free, you know, which is awesome, that young people that maybe can't afford it, you know what I mean, you know, we certainly didn't have money growing up, and you know, it kind of just made it all the more accessible for young people that, you know, kind of wanted to go and sort of see what it was about. And so they did a play every summer, and you would go and you would work with them, and you know, that's when I was introduced to improvisation and Shakespeare as well on a different scale, you know, versus kind of my English teacher at school, you know, introduced to more plays, and it was kind of a progression from there, Stu. I think, really, you know, I was a very keen footballer, and you know, had played semi-professional football as well, and you know, then I had a really nasty knee injury, and somehow in and around the knee injury, I kind of really honed in on acting. I think spending a lot of time on my own, up late at night, that type of thing. And that was kind of it. Yeah. And even when I dropped out of school, it looking back now, I think, gosh, I didn't think too much about it at the time, but looking back now, I probably would have been more fearful, you know, because, you know, I couldn't afford to go to drama school, and you know, I was kind of fortunate enough that a talent agent had spotted me whilst I was doing Romeo and Juliet in high school, and that was kind of my first introduction to it professionally. And you know, I just started working in the theater, and was very fortunate that I got to work with some really incredible people and kind of learn on the job, I guess, so to speak.
Yeah.
You know? So I would hope that, you know, anybody that knows my story, young people that come from, you know, maybe a working class background or whatever, you know, that they too can, you know, have the belief in themselves that they can pursue a career in the arts, that it is possible. It's a slightly more unconventional route, but it is doable. It is possible, you know.
Wonderful. Last song in the sort of formative years, Ryan, I'm going to ask you, please, to tell me the first song you ever buying from a record shop.
This is slightly embarrassing.
This is meant to be embarrassing, this one.
Oh, it's embarrassing in the sense that I couldn't really afford to buy a record when I was growing up. The little bit of money I had, was maybe going on new football boots or a jersey or a football or something like this. I did get around to it a little bit later in life. And I think it was, although I'm not terribly sure, I think it was definitely Maybe by Oasis.
Oh, it's a solid choice. That's not embarrassing. That's a great first purchase.
It took me a while to get around to it. I think I got there in the end. You know, it only took me, you know, 20 years. Wow.
Talking about playing football at a semi-professional level and then moving into acting, like you've chose two of the most competitive and cutthroat businesses to pursue. Was you a confident young man?
That's a good question. Gosh, Stu, you're asking really good questions. Asking me to delve into myself. Was I confident? In a weird way, Stu, what springs to mind was when I was 16, we did the high school musical. It was a show called Viva Mexico, and it was kind of a comedy. And there was a moment towards the end of the show, and I was sat on the stage, and they had packed, I don't know, 300-400 audience into the show, and friends and family, and it was a great moment for everybody. And I could hear my heart beat, and it was just going boom, 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 boom. And it was a relatively intense performance, for everybody. And there was myself and another guy, a wonderful actor, were kind of the comic relief in the show, so there was a sense of pressure to, and there was some improvisation on the night as well. It was a really awesome production. And I remember just that resonating with me. I thought, wow, I feel really comfortable here, and I feel really calm, even though there's, it was as if, that kind of thing where everything sort of slows down, and it's, you can almost hear nothing. And I really was kind of in tune with here and here. And it kind of, sort of spoke to me. Was I super confident? Probably not really, but that's, I think that was, what acting had afforded me, I think. And, there was something about maybe playing something that maybe wasn't part of who you were, that, maybe I think subconsciously kind of got in on me and grew on me, and I kind of gravitated towards that. Like I loved playing football, and I still play it, and I'm back playing it, and I'm really enjoying it again. And that was just a great time as well, you know what I mean? And that give you confidence. Maybe you scored a goal, or maybe you set up something, or maybe you pressed the ball really well, and I'm very grateful for those things in my life, because I wouldn't have been the most confident for sure. I would have been quite quiet and quite shy, but those moments, those bursts of confidence, I think I owe really to my family, of course, my parents, but also probably acting and indeed playing football.
Tell me the song that soundtracked your years clubbing.
Stu. It's a song called "Fly on the Wings of Love," and it's by XTM and DJ Chucky and Anaya. Yeah.
Tell me about clubbing. Was you a clubber?
Not really. No, not really. I mean, no, not in this sort of sense that, I kind of, went to maybe a few raves. I mean, I maybe did, but, it was maybe the, at the weekend, maybe you would have went out with your mates, and it was kind of quite, I would say, commercial music, music that I wasn't interested in, that's what kind of was played a lot of the time, you know. But Flying the Wings of Love was actually a guy that I went to school with, and he had an Xbox because I grew up having a PlayStation. So I only remember playing Halo when I was at his house, kind of hanging out. And in his garage, Stu, he had this awesome like snooker table, and it was kind of a small one, not one of the big ones. And I can't remember what he was playing it on, but he had a couple of tunes. One of them was Flying the Wings of Love. And a bit like my brother playing America on repeat.
Yeah.
Flying the Wings of Love was blasted into the roof of the garage continually. And that, because we were starting to go to the teenage discos at that stage, you know what I mean? And so before we went out, it was, fly on the wings of love, fly, baby, fly. That's, that's probably... I'm
just starting to wonder if, like, is this tantamount to, like, torture? The fact that, like, you've had these two people that have just literally waterboarded you with music, like...
Yeah, it could have been. That's all we had, Stu,
Yeah.
At times that's all we had, and you kind of loved it, and that was, you were just used to it, you know what I mean? I had a little MP3 player, and I don't know how many songs it had, but it was one of those ones you kind of hit the button, you flick at the top.
Yeah.
And you know, I can't remember. There was a couple of tunes on it. There was that tune, I think, Spaceman. I always wanted to go.
Babylon Zoo.
That's it. That was it. Yeah. And it was on there. And gosh, I'm trying to remember now. Can't remember what else was on there. There was a few tunes on there. I know.
We touched on confidence, and obviously I mentioned that the competitiveness in the industries that you've pursued and had success in. Tell me about drive.
It's been there, I guess, my entire life. Why, how, I'm not sure. Whether, you know, I think I watched probably from my parents, Stu. You know, my mom was an incredible worker, and you know, juggled several different jobs. I think 2 or 3 different jobs, even whilst, you know, I was on the way, and my father as well, you know, worked, you know, in construction for 40 years. And, you know, I don't know if there was something about that kind of growing up that, you know, I kind of seen their drive to try and change their lives. And, you know, it's maybe subliminally or subconsciously kind of, you know, permeated or kind of filtered its way into me or my being, you know. But you know, acting, like I said, was something that I was you know, incredibly passionate about as a young person. Once I kind of really understood a little bit more about it, and you know, I remember reading very early on one night, very late online, about, you know, Stanislavski and his work and his teachings, and, you know, that I think was the kind of thing that clicked for me in my head. I think, okay, well, now this makes sense to me. And you know, the drive has informed it, I think, as much as the vulnerability, you know what I mean. And you know, just being humble, you know what I mean. I think all those things have kind of come hand in hand. I never lost any of them. You know, when I finish work and have finished work over the years, you know, for me, there's probably been a grieving process with something that, you know, has lived quite closely with you, and you come back to rural Ireland, and you kind of, you know, you kind of reconnect with nature again, and sort of connect with yourself again, and you recover and you get ready to go again, and that drive is always there. It's always been there. And it's hard to maybe articulate just what it is, or where it comes from, or what indeed it's about, you know. But it's in me, and has been in me for a very long time, you know. And it helps, you know. Acting is like many different professions, it's you know, there's a lot of instability in it, and there's a lot of fear, and a lot of the unknown, and you have to, you know, take a leap of faith a lot of the time, and you have to kind of believe in yourself and believe in the work that you're doing. And you know, I think that the drive is important, you know, because it gets you through those moments where, you know, you're maybe rocked by something, you know, and indeed in life as well, you know what I mean. Not just in the work that I do, that kind of, you know, I go to bed thinking about and wake up thinking about, but indeed in life as well. We all hit obstacles in life, and we all hit kind of bumps in the road, and, you know, drive and determination and willingness to kind of keep going kind of gets us through those things, you know. So there are many things that I think in my life, my work as an actor, kind of echo or slightly mirror my life, and in general, you know what I mean. That's an interesting question, really interesting question.
Well, I'm going to take you home for the next question, and I'm going to ask you to tell me a favourite song from an artist from your home county, please.
It has to be Codaline, High Hopes.
Tune.
Yeah, has to be.
I mean, yeah. I mean, well, tell me about because as somebody that's in England, obviously, you know, we're exposed to so much Irish music, and
yeah,
and you know, and arguably you've produced some of the biggest bands on the planet. Tell me about what it's like growing up in, because I don't necessarily think that, and I might be speaking out of line here, but I don't think like English people feel massively passionate about Coldplay being from the UK, or you know, or you know, lots of other these huge bands, but it feels like Ireland's so proud of its music, and I wonder like what it's like growing up there, and is that love of Irish music, like is that something that's legit? You know, when you grow up, is it like, well, look, you know, we were exposed to so much of this homegrown talent. Like, you know, is it something that you know, you are as it's projected over? I'm trying to frame this question right. I'm going all over the place with it.
No, you're not.
But that passion that we see, you know, in the media and in, you know, in footage of concerts and things like that. You know, tell me about that passion, that Irish passion for their bands.
I mean, it's, you know, it my earliest memories of, you know, watching concerts and listening to music, you know, my mom and dad had a really old record player, and you know, it is, you know, the love for the arts, I think, in this country, and the love for music, and creativity, and artistry and imagination is you know, it's very fortunate, I think, growing up, because you're surrounded by it. You know, you go into primary school and you're surrounded by it, and you're surrounded by music, and you're surrounded by, you know, dancing, Irish dancing, you know, and there's kind of creativity and artistry just all around you, you know what I mean, in every type of environment. You know, I think for me growing up, and then you get into secondary school, it's all around you. It's in the community, you know, the musicians. It's incredible. You know, I've seen some of the most incredibly talented people, musicians, artists, dancers, growing up, you know what I mean, and it could be in the local community hall, you know what I mean. I fond memories of, you know, seeing Irish dancing and seeing theater and kind of, you know, just things going on, and you know, it's I think you can't not get swept up in it, you know what I mean, the energy, you know what I mean. I think you can't, you know, it's impossible to not get swept up in it. You know, it kind of will, it will kind of filter its way in some shape or form or fashion, you know what I mean. And you know, for me, there's always been a wave of wonderful Irish artists, you know, musicians and dancers, and, you know, creativity, you know what I mean. And that's why I think it's really exciting. You know, even when I started acting, you know, you felt that there was just such a wide variety of versatility and different types of skills and different types of talents, and that it was really exciting, I think, to be a part of that, you know what I mean. And it is as kind of, you know, cinematic maybe as you're kind of articulating it most certainly is, you know. And I just feel very fortunate to be able to do it. I mean, to pursue a career in the arts, be it, you know, music or, you know, dancing or singing or whatever, playing an instrument, or acting, or, you know, even stuff behind the scenes, you know, it's a real privilege, I think, you know, it's a real honor. And I'm very, very, very fortunate, like we touched on earlier about, you know, teachers in school and stuff like that. You know, there've been a lot of people in the local area and indeed in the city, that have helped me and helped a lot of people, you know, kind of, you know, sort of realize their dreams or think that it's possible, you know. And I think that that exists all across the country. You know, I've toured a lot with theater over the years, and, you know, I've recently, back in 2018, I did a one-man show called East Belfast Boy, which, you know, focused on male mental health in, you know, working class communities in East Belfast. And, you know, it was such important work in itself, but, you know, there was an element of dance to it, and, you know, there was a wonderful DJ that kind of scored the whole thing. But when we went around and we toured, and, you know, we toured in different counties in Ireland, and you'd maybe meet some of the young people afterwards that have been brought to see the show, you got a sense of what you're talking about, Stu. you know, the sense, that vibrancy, that energy, a passion for the arts, a passion for music, a passion for all these different things, you know. And so I think Ireland is steeped in it, you know, and I feel incredibly fortunate and very blessed to, you know, being in and around it, or, you know, to be able to do it, you know.
Well, for the last track, you get to play Tastemaker, influencer, I think they're called nowadays. And and I'm going to ask you, please, to tell me a song that you think that many people may not know, but you would like them to hear, please.
Yeah, it's an Italian artist called Valerio Lysander, and the track is called Cotton. I was at the Sofa Sessions. You familiar with the Sofa Sessions in London a couple of years ago? And Valerio came on to play, and I think he played maybe 4 or 5 songs, and it was some of the most beautiful music I'd heard possibly ever. And so much so that afterwards I waited to try and say hello to him, you know what I mean? And he was really, really cool and down to earth and really, really nice person. And he said, look, I'm playing a gig tomorrow evening across London. I can't remember where it was. And I said, I'll be there. So I went, and it was downstairs in this bar. I can't remember where it was, what part of London. And I just went down, and I was late. I can't remember if, you know, I was late getting on the tube, or, you know, I was late running in the rain or something like this. But I got in at the kind of the start of the first song, and it was a really intimate setting. You know, there might have been 20 people, if that, 20, 25 people. And, you know, it was just incredible music, real beautiful music. And he's a really, really awesome person. And yeah, I think a lot, you know, people in general should listen to his music and his lyrics and his energy, you know what I mean? It was very, very beautiful. And it stuck with me, I think. Yeah.
We make it easy for people to do that because we put together a Spotify playlist to accompany the podcast, so people can go and listen to all of the tracks that we've spoken about.
Oh, amazing, Stu.
And Ryan, as we find 2022 is moving at a rapid pace now, and, you know, there's all kinds of craziness going on in the world. But I want to know what you're looking forward to personally from the rest of this year, and tell me what you're doing professionally.
Professionally, it's I'm not sure really what I'll be doing. There are a few things that might happen and, you know, may not happen. And I just did a pilot for Channel 4 with the incredible Rosie Jones in London a few weeks ago, maybe 5 or 6 weeks ago. And that was an incredible experience. Going back to my roots, you know, kind of starting out in kind of comedy, Stu, was incredible, and watching her work, and the kind of just the creativity that is trying to put a pilot together. Not a lot of time, and some really awesome writing and awesome directing and really awesome acting across the board, and indeed the people behind the scenes, the wonderful crew that we had. So that was a really beautiful moment that I just did, and I miss it already. What I'm looking forward to is just, you know, trying to continue being in the moment, you know what I mean? Acting has kind of helped me do that a little better. And, you know, it's, I think, easy to get swept up in this and that. And, you know, a huge thing that I really, really love is Pilates. And, you know, that's become such a huge part of my life, and hiking as well. My Pilates instructor is also kind of my kind of personal trainer, a wonderful guy called Tommy. You know, we go up the mountains maybe once, twice a week if we're lucky. And I'm kind of just enjoying that, really, to be honest. You know, I'm kind of just enjoying that. You know, what I think will be. And I'm just, you know, enjoying kind of nature and animals, and, you know what I mean? And the simple things, I guess, in life, you know, I try not to get swept up in kind of, you know, the kind of I don't know, madness of life at times, you know.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Take a bit of time to just relax and you know, what will be will be, you know. I'm ready to go again, and you know, I'm excited as to what will come next, and I'm excited for people to see Halo, you know what I mean? It's a huge honor for me to be part of a show like that. And you know, growing up in this village, you know, you never think that such things are possible, Stu. You know, it's beyond my most imaginative dreams that I would be part of something that, you know, in some friend's living room, some high school friend's living room, playing a game that, you know, 18, 19 years later, that you'd kind of be a part of that world. And, you know, it's got, you know, Amblin behind it and Mr. Spielberg, you know, and it really is a different world. Kind of reminds me of Hook, you know, kind of that, kind of being transported, you know, the late, great, incredible Robin Williams, you know, and kind of being transported and stuff. And so, yeah, I just feel very grateful, and I feel, you know, very fortunate, you know, and so.
Lovely. Ryan, I'm really grateful for your time today. It's been a real joy talking records with you, man.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, Stu. What a pleasure, man. What a pleasure. Thank you.
I can't thank you enough, mate.
Thank you, man. Likewise.
I'm going to press stop on this for a sec. Don't go anywhere.